Good morning, this is Mrs. H again, and we are finishing up our setup for RobotC. So we've got all of our platform types set up, we've got our communication modes already done, and we've set up our downloading our firmware. That was on the last setup video. So today we're going to start with opening up our template. So we're going to go to Open File. And we're actually going to, in order to find it, I'm going to help you here. We're going to go over to the Y drive, and we're going to go to Heisenbuttel, and we are going to go to Automation and Robotics, and then there's a folder called Templates, and there's the PLTW template. And so we're going to click Open, and there it is. There's our template. We're immediately, before we do anything else, we are going to save this to the U drive. So I'm going to go File, Save As, and my U drive has my name on it. Your U drive has your ID number. So we're just going to do Setup Example. So I just gave it some sort of a name. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I need to put my information in. So I'm going to put in my project title. This is VEX Testbed, and this is going to be Setup2 because that's what we're doing, is the second part of the setup. Team names, I'm going to put in my general fake student. Her name is Jane Student, and we're going to call today 3/21/14, and we'll say it's the 8th class period of the day. Mind you, we don't have 8, but I'm just randomly putting it in there. You would put your class period in for section. Task description. In this case, we are going to set up RobotC to be ready to program. And yes, you'll notice I actually type in a task description. I don't have a pseudocode yet because, and I've gone over pseudocode with you guys a little bit, but for the most part, pseudocode is going to be what we're going to set up. So let's assume for the moment that we were going to, turn on the right motor. So our task description would be run right motor for 5 seconds at half speed. So there's my setup. So my pseudocode for that, well, what would I have to do first? Because we talked about behaviors for code. The very first thing I would have to do is I would have to turn the motor on. So I would say turn on right motor. And then I would tell it to wait some number of seconds, in this case 5. Wait 5 seconds. Okay, so what we're going to do is we've got to turn on the right motor. We've got to wait 5 seconds. After that 5 seconds, we're going to stop motor. So that's my pseudocode because those are the steps I'm going to use to get there. So this is my complex behavior, this is my simple behavior, and then my basic behavior is going to actually be the code. So before I can do anything, I have to name things. So I'm going to pull up to Robot, and I'm going to pull down to Motors and Sensor Setup. And notice there's motors. I can put in all the motors I want. There's my analog sensors and my digital sensors. Remember the difference? Analog sensors measure all the spaces in between on and off. And digital sensors just go on off. There's no in between. There's no maybes. But in this case, I'm doing a VEX test bed. I'm doing the GTT test bed, so I'm just going to click that. But I'm going to come over here to motors, and you notice it sets it up as 3-wire motors. I'm going to change them to 269 motors because that's what I have. As I have 269 motors. Hit apply and OK, and notice it puts it all up there at the top for me. So now when I'm typing my code, I can go back and look and see what I named things. So I'm going to open up natural language over here in my function library, and I'm going to look for all of my different pieces that I'm going to need. Now, before I get too much further along, I should definitely make sure that everything is plugged into the Cortex correctly. So I'm going to go and make sure that my line tracker is in analog number 1. and that my potentiometer is in analog number 2, that my limit switch is in digital number 1, and that my bump switch is in digital number 2. Those are pretty important ones for us to have plugged into the right spots. Also remember that because the right and left motors are plugged into number 2 and number 3, that means they have to have a motor adapter on them. And remember, you always plug those in so you see both the little metal pins on the same side so that you don't fry your motors. So you've got all that plugged in and ready to go. Now you are finally ready to start dragging code over, and it doesn't matter what we're doing right now because I'm just setting it up for you, but I'm going to say a start motor. I just drag and drop, and then I'm going to scroll down here until I get to the weights. There's 2 weights. You'll notice one is weight in seconds and the other is weight in milliseconds. And then I'm going to pull over a stop motor. And so that's simple. Now that it's there, all I have to do is go in and change the motor to be the name that I gave my motor. Yes, I could have named my motor Bob if I wanted to, but that's not what I did. We just called it right motor because that's how it's set up for our test bed. So that's the basics of setting this up and getting RobotC ready to go. So good luck on your first programming assignment next.